At the end of 2024, Australia's housing market experienced a slowdown in growth, with signs of regional performance polarisation emerging. The two major cities, Sydney and Melbourne, saw fluctuations in housing prices due to high inflation and interest rate pressures. Meanwhile, Queensland, Western Australia and South Australia benefited from population growth and a thriving resource sector, becoming the market's focus for the year. In terms of politics, there were many changes in Australia in 2025. On the international front, Donald Trump was elected in the US, and there were preparations for a general election within Australia. Additionally, immigration policies were adjusted, with the government tightening regulations on international students and 485 visas. Visas like GTI and TSS were phased out, replaced by more attractive SID and NIV visas. Overall, 2025 faces many uncertainties both internationally and domestically in Australia. The question remains, will Australian property prices rise or fall in 2025? How will Australia's situation change in various aspects in 2025? What are the trends in the 8 major capital cities? This episode will reveal the answers for you. Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Invest with Alison, sharing some stories about Australian life, financial management and real estate investment. I'm an Australian lawyer and accountant and a licensed real estate agent across different states in Australia. I have published a book called Investing in Australian Properties, Building Financial Freedom. The following content is personal opinion only and does not constitute any investment advice. First, let's look at the top 5 investment benchmarks to watch in 2025. The first benchmark is interest rates and inflation. Interest rates are expected to decrease in the first half of the year, which will further ease the burden of purchasing homes. The economy is the foundation of everything, and the fluctuations in Australia's property market are closely tied to interest rate policies. 2025 may usher in a new turning point as the economy remains stable and inflationary pressures gradually ease. Market predictions generally suggest that the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, may lower interest rates in the first half of 2025. As expected, the Reserve Bank of Australia, RBA, indeed announced on February 19, 2025, a 0.25% rate cut, bringing the cash rate down to 4.10%. Lower interest rates will boost investor confidence, especially for first-time home buyers and investors. Therefore, after the rate cuts in 2025, the housing market might be poised for growth. However, the extent of this growth will depend on the frequency of rate cuts by the central bank. In addition to interest rates, we must also monitor the Australian dollar's exchange rate. Due to the US policy of a strong dollar, Australia's export competitiveness has increased, particularly in commodities like iron ore and fuel, which may see further growth. If these factors push inflation higher, Australia may delay further interest rate cuts. The second benchmark is population growth. Although Australia's population growth has slowed, it still holds potential. Interstate migration will be a key driver of the property market. In 2025, Australia's population will continue to grow, pushing housing prices higher. New South Wales and Victoria remain the primary destinations for migrants. The Australian Bureau of Statistics, ABS, predicts that by 2027, New South Wales will have a population of 9 to 9.3 million, and Victoria's population is growing rapidly, expected to exceed 7 million, continuing to support property prices in Sydney and Melbourne. At the same time, Queensland has 74,930 overseas migrants, and Western Australia has 58,080. These two states have attracted a large number of new immigrants. Especially Queensland, with its lower housing prices and infrastructure development, such as the Brisbane Olympics, has become a popular choice for first-time homebuyers and investors. Even though population growth slowed to 2.07% in 2024, immigration remains an important support for the housing market. Looking at the long-term perspective, ABS forecasts that from 2029 to 2033, Australia's population will exceed 30 million. Meanwhile, interstate migration's impact on property prices is becoming evident. As living costs rise, more Australians are choosing to move to more affordable areas, such as Perth, where housing prices saw the largest increase of 19.1% in the past year. Brisbane in Queensland also saw a rise of 11.2%. These two regions are popular destinations for interstate migration. That means many people are moving from other states to Queensland or Perth. Queensland ranked first in interstate migration, with 29,910 people moving in, and Western Australia ranked second with 9,742 people. If you know any Australians, you might want to ask them, as many may have moved to Queensland or Perth. Therefore, if you want to understand the potential of the 2025 property market, it's worth paying attention to the trends in interstate migration. The third factor affecting the Australian property market in 2025 is the new visa policies. Short-term visas are being greatly reduced, but high-quality immigration is significantly increasing. As the government reduces the number of international students in 2024, the number of 485 work visas is also being sharply reduced, especially for graduates in non-popular majors. At the same time, the government's immigration policies are attracting more skilled migrants to fill labour market gaps. This means that in 2025, the government's visa preferences will reduce short-term resident populations and increase high-quality migrants who meet Australia's needs. The reduction in short-term visas may directly impact rental demand for small apartments in city centres. A decrease in the number of international students will slow rental growth for these properties, and some areas, particularly traditional student hubs like Sydney and Melbourne, may see rising vacancy rates. On the other hand, skilled migrants help support the Australian housing market. These high-income, high-skilled migrant groups typically buy homes when they arrive in Australia, and they tend to choose larger properties, usually 3 bedrooms or more. So, in the future, demand for 3-bedroom or larger homes or apartments may actually increase. The fourth factor influencing the Australian housing market is housing supply and construction costs. Although approval speeds have improved somewhat, construction costs remain high. Therefore, it is expected that supply will continue to be insufficient in 2025. Australia is facing a housing shortage, and the government introduced policies in the second half of 2024 to encourage new home construction. The housing approval rate in 2025 is heading in a positive direction. However, in October, the total number of homes increased by 4.4%, reaching the second highest level in 2 years. The approval rates across states still differ significantly. Queensland, Western Australia, and South Australia are seeing a strong recovery in construction activity, so there may be more residential properties entering the market in the short term, easing the supply pressure. However, Victoria has recently pushed for more high-rise buildings, which require more complex planning and approval processes due to additional technical, safety, and environmental considerations. As a result, Victoria's approval rate has not significantly increased and remains flat. New South Wales is still in a weak state, with construction activity sluggish, further reducing housing affordability in Sydney. On the other hand, fluctuations in the Australian dollar, disruptions in supply chains, decreased labour productivity, and issues related to the Russia-Ukraine conflict are impacting construction timelines, pushing up building costs. In September, the Cordell Construction Cost Index, CCCI, showed a 3.2% annual increase in construction costs, with a quarterly increase of 1.0%. Therefore, if construction costs are not adjusted, the supply shortage in the housing market will persist as the population grows in 2025. The fifth factor affecting the real estate market in 2025 is the transfer of wealth among the rich. Young people are accelerating home ownership, and the real estate market is entering a healthy adjustment cycle. In 2025, we are welcoming a whole new generation. The people born in this generation are called Generation Beta. This is also the first time in history that 7 generations are simultaneously alive. There will be significant changes in population structure and wealth distribution in the future. The focus is on those born between 1946 and 1964 during the baby boomer generation. They have reached retirement age, which is between 61 and 79 years old. According to research by KPMG, the baby boomer generation has been the largest holder of housing assets over the years. As this generation gradually enters retirement, they are beginning to sell off their real estate portfolios or choose to pass on their properties to their children. This will continue to impact the direction of the real estate market in 2025. Many baby boomers are choosing to downsize, selling large detached houses in favor of apartments or retirement communities. This has released a significant amount of suburban housing inventory, providing opportunities for more families to enter the market. This trend of downsizing not only brings more transaction opportunities to the market, but will also significantly improve market liquidity in 2025. As they age, baby boomers are transferring wealth to the next generation, which is becoming the largest wealth transfer in history. Many parents are helping the next generation buy homes by gifting or contributing to their down payments. For investors, this means increased demand from first-time homebuyers, especially in more affordable areas. This demand boost will drive up property prices in these more affordable regions. Therefore, if investors focus on these low-price areas, they may profit from it. The third factor is that the real estate market in 2025 will enter a healthy cycle. This is not only a redistribution of personal wealth, but also a sign that the real estate market is undergoing structural adjustments. For investors, this is an opportunity to reassess and adjust their investment portfolios. As many young people enter the market in 2025, it could drive demand for smaller homes like townhouses, and investors should pay attention to this trend. Based on these factors influencing the Australian real estate market in 2025, our first prediction is that the real estate markets in Sydney and Melbourne may experience further declines. Everyone knows that at the end of last year, the overall performance of Sydney and Melbourne showed consecutive months of decline. For Sydney, August last year marked the peak of the city's cycle. Since September, the market has remained flat, and the quarter from November to January saw a 1.4% overall drop. Melbourne's real estate market experienced a downward trend in 10 out of the past 12 months. Over the past year, Melbourne's housing prices decreased by 3.3%. According to CoreLogic's January report, we can see that the number of listings for sale in Sydney and Melbourne has significantly increased compared to last year, but the average time to sell has increased by 5 and 7 days, respectively. This shows that the housing supply in Sydney and Melbourne is too high, leading to a reduction in buyer enthusiasm. This is one of the reasons for the market slowdown. Another key factor is the significant increase in land taxes announced by the New South Wales and Victoria governments last year, which has affected potential buyers and property owners interested in Sydney and Melbourne. Buyers are hesitant due to the high land tax, and property owners, faced with high holding costs, are beginning to sell off their properties in large numbers. According to the Financial Review, over 3,000 real estate investors exited the Melbourne market in May last year, an increase of 34% compared to the previous year. Investors in Sydney are also selling their investment properties, with this trend increasing by 17% compared to last year. At the same time, the population growth in Sydney and Melbourne continues to slow. From 2023-2024, the population growth rate was 1.25% and 1.55%, but it dropped to 1.23% and 1.43% in 2024-2025. Given the known trends, the tightening of visa policies will likely cause a slight further slowdown in population growth in 2025. This will further weaken the real estate markets in Sydney and Melbourne. However, for owner-occupiers, as housing supply gradually increases and interest rates are likely to be cut in the coming months, the pressure on purchasing a home may ease. Additionally, owner-occupiers do not need to worry about land tax policies, as primary residences are exempt from land tax. If your budget is lower, you may want to focus on emerging areas in the western and northern suburbs of Melbourne and Sydney, where property prices are typically lower and have strong long-term potential for appreciation. If you're interested in the western suburbs of Melbourne, feel free to check out my videos on that topic. The second prediction is that Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth will continue to grow. Compared to some medium-sized cities in Sydney and Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth performed exceptionally well last year, with increases of 14.7%, 16.9%, and 22.3%, respectively. The main reason is that these second-tier cities have lower living costs and pressures. Even with high interest rates, I have noticed that people still have spare funds and borrowing capacity to buy homes. For Brisbane, even though housing prices increased by 14.7% last year, the median house price is still $890,000 AUD, far below the $1.19 million AUD median price in Sydney. Moreover, Brisbane has attracted a large number of interstate migrants, along with the excitement of the upcoming Olympics and infrastructure upgrades like railways and airport expansions, all of which have contributed to further increases in the city's housing prices. According to SQM economists' predictions, Brisbane's housing prices will rise by 9 to 14% in 2025 due to the impact of infrastructure upgrades and the Olympics. The area from the Gold Coast to Brisbane and Sunshine Coast is expected to perform especially well in 2025. Finally, the last city prediction is for Perth, which everyone is eagerly awaiting. We all know that the mining industry has been in decline for many years, but our prediction is that Perth's mining sector will rebound in 2025. As of the end of last year, CoreLogic's nationwide data showed that Perth had the highest annual growth rate in housing prices in Australia, especially in the northeast and southern regions, with some areas seeing price increases as high as 24%. Therefore, SQM is very optimistic about Perth's market in 2025, predicting that housing prices will increase by another 14%, 19%. Although Perth's housing prices are still rising, I personally believe that the increase will not be as exaggerated as in 2024. It's worth mentioning that the areas I've recommended over the past 2 years have now topped the list of Perth's price increases. The top spot is Swan, Henley Brook, where many clients made tens of thousands of AUD in profit within a year. There's also Wanneroo, where clients have made over 200,000 AUD since I started investing there in 2022. At the end of last year, I recommended Champion Lakes, Armadale, which is now ranked 10th in terms of price increases. A big thank you to all my clients who trusted me. Our team will continue to accompany you in 2025 to achieve even greater success. If you're interested in investing or have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and interact with me. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one consultation, you can contact me via WeChat, WhatsApp, or email, or visit my website at investwithalison.com to book a time. Let's discuss investment opportunities together. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.